On Earth, Jisoo Lee completed her work. The weapons she had been to 26 months after humanity departed. The Galactic Council gathered for what everyone knew would be their final meeting. The chamber that had once held representatives from 848 species now held barely 300. Half the member species were extinct. Another quarter were refugees with no governments left to represent. The rest were desperately trying to survive and had sent junior diplomats or recordings instead of attending in person. The Vrelian Imperator was there. He looked diminished. His scales were dull. 2 of his 6 arms had been lost in a pirate raid. His empire was gone. His homeworld was evacuated. He was a leader with nothing left to lead. The Prime Speaker called the meeting to order. Its gases were nearly invisible now, a sign that it was close to death. Council speakers rarely survived their terms during crisis periods. This one would not either. "We have one agenda item," the speaker said, "voting on whether to accept Earth's terms." The terms had been delivered 1 week ago. They were simple and brutal. Every council member who had voted for the colonial reparations must surrender themselves to human custody. They would be tried for crimes against humanity. If found guilty, they would serve sentences determined by human courts. Only after this happened would humanity consider helping the galaxy. Some species had agreed immediately. Their representatives were already in human custody, waiting for trials. Others had refused, calling it unconscionable, a surrender of sovereignty, a humiliation they could not accept. The Vrelian Imperator spoke first. "I vote no. I will not surrender myself or any Vrelian citizen to human judgment. It is a violation of everything the Council stands for. We are equals, peers. We do not submit to trials by inferior species." "Inferior?" Someone laughed bitterly. It was a Kelvin refugee, one of the few survivors of their homeworld. The inferior species is the one that can stop the devourers but chooses not to? Or is it us who cannot stop them and are dying by billions? "The humans are manipulating us," the Imperator shouted. They created this crisis. They woke the devourers intentionally. They opened the dimensional rift. They are using fear to control us. Bora Shin, who had returned to the council one final time, stood up. She was the only human in the chamber. She looked tired, sad, angry, all of it at once. 50,000 years, she said quietly. That is how long the devourers have existed. We have archaeological evidence, geological records, astronomical data, all of it predating human contact by millennia. But sure, we created them. Just like we created the dimensional rift that existed for 3 million years before humans even evolved. Just like we created the pirate problem that plagued the galaxy for 10,000 years before Earth developed spaceflight. She looked at the Imperator directly. You are not refusing to surrender because you believe we are wrong. You are refusing because you cannot admit that you were wrong, that your pride, your arrogance, your absolute certainty that humans were inferior led directly to this catastrophe. You voted to take our homes. Now billions are dead, and you still cannot say the words, "I was wrong." The Imperator's scales flushed dark with anger. "I will never submit to human judgment. I would rather die." "That can be arranged," Bora said coldly. "The Devourers are 4 days from your refugee fleet. Your weapons cannot stop them. Your allies cannot help you. You have exactly one option left. Admit you were wrong. Accept punishment. Beg humanity for help, or die with your pride intact." The Imperator said nothing. His mandibles clenched tight. Other council members spoke. Some argued for accepting the terms. Others argued against. The debate went in circles. Hours passed. The dimensional rift grew larger in real time, visible on the chamber's displays. Devourer positions updated constantly, showing them consuming system after system. Finally, the vote was called. The question: accept Earth's terms and surrender the responsible council members for trial? The vote was closer than anyone expected. Many species still refused, even with extinction looming. Pride apparently was stronger than survival instinct. But enough species voted yes. Barely enough. The motion passed. The Vrelian Imperator stood. "Then I am no longer part of this council. I will not surrender myself. The Vrelian people will stand alone. The Vrelian people are scattered across 100 refugee ships with 4 days until the Devourers reach them," Bora said. "They will not be standing for long." The Imperator left. Others followed him. Species that chose pride over survival. Species that would rather face extinction than admit humans had been right. The remaining council members authorized the surrender. Over the next 3 days, 823 former council members were transported to Earth. Some came willingly, apologizing for their votes. Others came in chains, defiant to the end. 24 refused to surrender and were declared outlaws by their own governments. The trials were held publicly, broadcast across the galaxy. Every species could watch as their former leaders stood before human judges. Minho Park, the former ambassador, served as chief prosecutor. He was thorough, methodical, and absolutely merciless with the facts. "You voted to confiscate human colonies," he told the accused. 15 million human civilians. 3 generations of families. Homes built over a century. You voted to take all of it based on no evidence. No trial, no justice. You simply took what you wanted because you had the votes. The accused tried various defenses. They claimed they had believed the Vrelian accusations. They claimed they had not understood the implications. They claimed they had been pressured to vote yes. Minho systematically destroyed every excuse. "You are leaders of civilizations. You are supposed to understand implications. You are supposed to demand evidence before judgment. You are supposed to resist pressure to commit injustice. You failed. You chose the easy path, the comfortable path. You voted against humanity because it cost you nothing. Now it has cost everything." The trials took 6 days. The verdicts were unanimous, guilty. The sentences varied. Some received prison terms. Others received fines that would bankrupt their governments. A few, those who showed genuine remorse and had worked to undermine the vote, received probation and community service. The Vrelian representatives received the harshest sentences. 50 years labor. They would work on rebuilding projects in human space, helping repair damage from various disasters. They would see firsthand what human civilians did. The unglamorous work of maintaining civilization. Throughout the trials, the galaxy watched. Some species expressed outrage at the sentences. Others felt they were too lenient. Most just felt relieved that humanity was finally engaging again. On the final day of trials, Admiral Hana Kim gave an address to the galaxy. "The trials are complete. Justice has been served, as much as justice can be served for what was done. Now we must discuss the future." She pulled up a map of the galaxy. It was color-coded. Red zones showed devourer-controlled space. Purple showed the dimensional rifts expansion. Yellow showed pirate kingdoms. Green showed stable council territory. There was very little green. This is the galaxy as it exists today. Approximately 40% of council space is under direct threat. Another 30% is destabilized by refugees and resource scarcity. Only 30% remains relatively stable, and that stability is temporary. She zoomed in on different regions. The Devourers have consumed 47 civilizations. Current projections show they will reach Council core worlds within 8 months. The dimensional rift is expanding at an accelerating rate. Current projections show it will destabilize the Nexus Gate network completely within 6 months. The pirate kingdoms control 48% of trade routes and are growing stronger. The numbers were devastating. Everyone knew things were bad. Seeing it quantified made it real. "Humanity has the capability to address all 3 threats," Hana continued. "We have anti-devourer weapons. We have rift-sealing technology. We have military forces capable of destroying the pirate kingdoms. We chose not to deploy these capabilities for 26 months. Why?" Someone shouted from the audience. "Because you needed to learn," Hana said simply. "Needed to understand what the galaxy is like without human protection. Needed to experience the consequences of your choices. Needed to value what you had taken for granted." She paused. "Have you learned?" Silence. Then slowly voices responded. Yes, they had learned. They understood now. They valued humanity now. They would never take human contributions for granted again. "Good," Hana said, "because humanity is not returning to the council." The chamber erupted in panic. What? They had done everything asked. They had surrendered their leaders. They had accepted the trials. They had learned the lesson. Hana waited for quiet. The Galactic Council failed. It was corrupt, complacent, unable to make hard decisions, unable to reward merit or punish injustice. It voted to victimize humanity simply because it could. That council does not deserve to be saved. Then what? The Prime Speaker asked. "We just die?" "No," Hana said. "We are establishing something new. The Free Systems Alliance, open to any species that meets 3 requirements. 1. Recognition of human sovereignty and equality. 2. Commitment to mutual defense and cooperation. 3. Willingness to contribute fairly to the common good. She listed the species that had already joined, the ones who had AC. 22 months after humanity departed, the Devourers reached the Kelvin homeworld. The Kelvin Consortium had spent every resource building defenses. They had purchased weapons from the Vrelian Empire. They had hired mercenaries from a dozen different species. They had constructed orbital platforms armed with the most powerful weapons known to Council science. They had evacuated 3 billion civilians to underground shelters. None of it mattered. The Devourer arrived at the system's edge. It was the size of a moon now, having consumed 17 civilizations. It did not slow down. It did not communicate. It simply moved toward the inhabited planets like a shark toward blood. The defensive fleet opened fire at maximum range. Every weapon, every ship, simultaneous bombardment that would have vaporized a planet. The energy weapons hit the Devourer and were absorbed. The kinetic weapons hit and were converted into more of its mass. The exotic weapons, the expensive ones purchased from the Vrelian Empire, simply stopped existing when they got close. The Devourer reached the fleet 12 minutes later. It did not fight the ships. It simply touched them. Where it touched, the ships came apart. Not exploded, not destroyed. They were disassembled at the molecular level, their materials consumed and integrated. The crews did not even have time to scream. The entire defensive fleet was gone in 40 minutes. The Devourer reached the orbital platforms. Same result. The platforms lasted slightly longer because they were stationary and could focus fire, but the outcome was identical. Consumed, integrated, gone. It reached the homeworld. The shields the best money could buy held for almost 3 hours. Then they failed. The Devourer descended into the atmosphere. 13 billion Kelvin died that day. The few who escaped in refugee ships watched their world being taken apart piece by piece, digested, converted into more Devourer mass. By the time it finished, there was no planet left. Just an expanding cloud of the Devourer's biomechanical material. It moved toward the next system. It was noticeably larger now. The council convened again. Half the member species were not present. They were either extinct, evacuated, or too busy trying to survive to attend meetings. Those who did attend looked terrified. "We need to negotiate with the humans," someone said. The voice came from the Belcor Collective, a species known for extreme pride. Hearing them admit needing help shocked everyone. "The humans will not negotiate," the prime speaker said. "Its gases were nearly transparent now, a sign of extreme stress. We have sent 743 diplomatic missions to Earth. All were turned away at their defensive perimeter. We have sent direct communications to their leadership. All were ignored. Then offer them anything." Someone else shouted. "Money, territory, technology, whatever they want." The Vrelian Imperator was notably quiet. His empire was fracturing. 3 of his subject races had rebelled, claiming he had led them to ruin. His own homeworld was fortifying against possible Devourer attack, and the military was ignoring his commands, preparing their own defenses instead. Doyen Choi, Earth's intelligence director, finally responded to the Council's attempts at communication. His message was brief and public. The Galactic Council voted 847 to 1 to confiscate human colonies. That vote established the value you place on human lives. It established the respect you have for human sovereignty. It established the partnership you offered. "We declined to renegotiate at this time." At this time, the prime speaker seized on those words. "That implies you might negotiate in the future?" Doyen's next message was even shorter. "Perhaps. When you understand what you did wrong. When you accept consequences. When you demonstrate actual change. Until then, humanity is busy protecting humanity." The council tried to force the issue. A fleet of council ships led by species that had not voted for the colonial reparations approached Earth. They broadcasted peaceful intentions. They requested asylum for refugees. They begged for help against the Devourers. Admiral Hana Kim's response was broadcast on all frequencies. "You are approaching human sovereign space. Turn back immediately or you will be fired upon. We mean no harm," the fleet leader protested. "We are refugees. We voted against the reparations. We supported humanity. You voted against us once. After 200 years of partnership, One vote when it cost you nothing does not erase 2 centuries of taking us for granted. Hana's voice was cold. Turn back now, please. The Devourers are 3 days behind us. We have nowhere else to go. You have the entire galaxy. Just not human space. This is your final warning. The fleet did not turn back. They continued approaching. Perhaps thinking humans were bluffing. Perhaps thinking humanity could not actually fire on refugees. They were wrong. The human defensive perimeter opened fire, not with the weapons the Council knew about. With weapons that had been kept secret for 2 centuries. Weapons that had been researched and developed and stored against the day they might be needed. 3 shots. 3 ships disintegrated, not destroyed. Simply ceased to exist, converted to energy so efficiently that there was not even debris left behind. The remaining ships turned around very quickly. Minho Park, the former ambassador, gave an interview to a neutral news service. The interview spread across the galaxy within hours. Many species are upset that humanity refuses to help. They say we are being cruel, vindictive, that we are letting billions die for pride. Minho's expression was calm but hard. Let me be clear. We are not doing this for revenge. We are doing this because we learned a valuable lesson. What lesson? The interviewer asked. That being helpful makes you a servant, not a partner. That solving everyone else's problems makes them dependent, not grateful. That constantly saving people who disrespect you makes you a fool. He leaned forward. For 200 years we helped. We gave, we protected. We asked for only one thing in return: respect. Basic. Recognition that we were equals, partners. The Council's answer was to vote to take our homes, but people are dying, the interviewer pressed. People were always dying, Minho said flatly. These crises existed before humanity joined the Council. They will exist after humanity. The only difference is that for 2 centuries we handled them for you. We shielded you from reality. We made you soft. Made you forget how dangerous the galaxy actually is. Now you remember. That is not our fault. That is not our responsibility. The interview went on. Will humanity eventually help? Maybe, when the price is right. When proper respect is shown. When agreements are mutual and binding. When we are treated as equals, not as tools. Minho smiled slightly. But not before then. We have learned to value ourselves properly. The galaxy should have learned to value us too. The dimensional rift grew larger. Things continued coming through. Species that had worlds near the rift evacuated completely. Entire civilizations became refugees overnight. They tried to flee to safer regions. They found those regions already overcrowded with other refugees. Fighting broke out. Not wars between species, but desperate scrambles for resources. For food, for fuel, for space to exist. The council structure began collapsing. Member species stopped attending meetings. They stopped following council laws. Survival became the only priority. Tae-Young John watched the collapse with something like sadness. He gave an interview to the same neutral service that had spoken with Minho. We tried to prevent this, he said. We really did. For 200 years we worked to make the council strong, stable, united. We believed in the vision of a cooperative galaxy. We were perhaps the only species that truly believed in it. Why did humans believe so strongly? The interviewer asked. Because Earth's history taught us what happens when nations refuse to cooperate. We had wars that nearly destroyed our entire species. We learned painfully that working together is the only path forward. We thought the galaxy had learned the same lesson. We were wrong. Tae-Young pulled up data. The council was never really united. It was dozens of different power blocks, competing interests, ancient grudges held in check by mutual exhaustion. Humans were the glue holding it together. We mediated disputes. We prevented wars. We provided neutral ground for negotiations. Without us, the council is revealing its true nature. Fractured, tribal, ultimately unable to work together even in the face of extinction. The pirate kingdoms noticed the council's weakness. They stopped hiding. They started conquering openly. Systems that had been council members for thousands of years suddenly found themselves under pirate rule. The council military, what was left of it, could not respond. They were too busy trying to evacuate their own homeworlds from devourer attacks. One pirate king, a former council security officer who had turned criminal, gave his own interview. The council was always a lie, he said. It pretended to be noble, civilized, better than violence. But it only worked because humans provided the violence. They did the ugly work. the necessary work, keeping people like me in check. Now they are gone. Now we see what the council actually is without human muscle behind it. Weak, frightened, helpless. He laughed. The funny part? Humans tried to train us. They offered to teach council militaries how to fight properly, how to maintain order, how to project power. The council refused. They said it was not the council way. They said military power was crude and unnecessary. Now they are paying the price for their arrogance. All of it focused on one thing: protecting humanity. Only humanity. The galaxy had made its choice. 14 months after humanity departed the Galactic Council, the first devourer appeared. It came from the direction of the galactic core, moving through space at impossible speeds. Long-range sensors detected it 3 days before arrival. The detection came from the Velen Confederation, a cluster of scientific worlds on the outer rim. The sensor technician who first saw it thought there was an error in the equipment. The reading was too large, too fast, too wrong. She ran the scans again. The readings were the same. Something massive was approaching. Something that did not match any known ship design or natural phenomenon. She reported it to her supervisor. Her supervisor reported it to the Confederation military. The military scrambled every available ship to investigate. 23 vessels, the best the Confederation had. None of them came back. The distress signals lasted exactly 4 minutes. The recordings were fragmentary, corrupted by some kind of electromagnetic interference, but what came through was enough to freeze the blood of every species that heard it. It is not a ship. It is alive, or was alive, or something else. It is eating the ships, eating them, breaking them down at the molecular level. Weapons do nothing. Shields do nothing. It just consumes everything it touches and grows larger. Send help, send everything. Send the hum. The transmission cut off. The council convened an emergency session. For the first time since humanity departed, real fear showed on alien faces. The prime speaker's gases turned a sickly gray color. What was that thing? Someone demanded. Nobody knew. Nobody had any idea. The Velen Confederation was simply gone. 4 worlds, 6 billion beings. Vanished. The thing, whatever it was, had consumed everything and moved on. It headed toward the next nearest inhabited system. Hyun-Woo Nam had been expecting this. He was a human colonist who had chosen to stay behind on a neutral research station. His specialty was pre-human galactic history, the long, violent history that most species tried to forget. He released his research publicly. Thousands of pages, centuries of data, evidence that most galactic historians had dismissed as myth or exaggeration. They were called devourers, his report began, self-replicating machines created by an ancient race as weapons. They were designed to consume enemy civilizations. Ships, stations, planets, stars, everything. They won the war. Then they consumed their creators too. They were stopped eventually by a coalition of the oldest races. Not destroyed. Stopped. Driven into hibernation in the dead spaces between galaxies. The report continued. They wake when they detect certain quantum signatures, energy patterns, technological emissions. The ancient races learned to hide their signatures, masking their presence, creating dead zones. They survived by staying quiet and still. For 50,000 years, this strategy worked. Then came the important part. 203 years ago, humanity joined the Galactic Council. Human technology was different, louder, more energetic. Their quantum signatures were bright and obvious. Within months, long-range sensors detected movement in the deep dark. Devourers were waking up. Hyun-Woo's report included classified human military documents that he should not have had access to. Documents showing that human intelligence had detected the devourer threat within their first year on the Council. Documents showing the response. Humanity had not ignored the threat. They had built a network of quantum dampeners. Massive installations placed throughout Council space, generating interference patterns that masked the bright human signatures, creating noise that confused the devourer's sensors, making the galaxy appear empty and uninteresting. For 200 years, humans had maintained these installations, powered them, updated them, kept them running continuously. None of the other Council species even knew they existed, until humanity withdrew and shut them all down. The devourers did not return because humans left, Hyun-Woo's report concluded. They returned because humans stopped protecting you. The council response was immediate and divided. Some species expressed horror at their own ignorance. Others accused humanity of deliberately allowing the Devourers to attack as revenge. The Vrelian Imperator naturally took the latter position. Humanity orchestrated this. They woke these monsters intentionally to punish us. Bora Shin, who had returned to Earth but still monitored council communications, sent a single reply. "You arrogant fool. Humans spent 2 centuries preventing this. We spent trillions of credits. Thousands of our people worked their entire lives maintaining those dampeners. We did it quietly because we knew if we told you, you would either not believe us or you would panic. We protected you without asking for credit. Now you blame us for stopping. You truly deserve everything that is coming." But the Devourers were only the beginning. The dimensional rift appeared near the Nexus Prime station. It started as a small tear in space, barely noticeable. Within hours, it had expanded to planetary scale. Things came through the rift. Things that did not belong in this universe. Things that hurt to look at. Things that violated physics and sanity in equal measure. An automated warning buoy near the rift broadcast a message in multiple languages. The message was 87 years old. It was labeled as a human maintenance log. Rift stability holding at 99.7%. Dimensional barriers reinforced. Energy bleed reduced to acceptable levels. Next maintenance cycle scheduled in 6 months. Station DRF-7 operating normally. Team rotation scheduled. No incidents to report. The logs went back 87 years. Regular maintenance. Constant monitoring. Human engineers working in shifts. Keeping the rift sealed. Preventing dimensional catastrophe. All of it classified. All of it secret. All of it now abandoned. The council sent ships to investigate. To try to seal the rift using their own technology. The ships that got too close simply vanished. Not destroyed, not consumed. They ceased to exist. Erased from reality itself. The rift continued expanding. On Earth, Jisoo Lee gave a presentation to the Human Defense Council. The presentation was later leaked, though many suspected the leak was intentional. The Devourers were not the only threat we were managing, she explained. The dimensional rift was another. So were the plague seeds dormant in the Threxian genome. So were the asteroid clusters on collision courses with a dozen different homeworlds. So were the quantum instabilities in the gate network. So were approximately 2,000 other threats ranging from minor inconveniences to extinction-level events. She pulled up a map of council space. It was covered in markers. Thousands of them. Each one representing a human installation, a human team, a human project. Each one quietly working to prevent disaster. We did not advertise this work. We did not demand recognition. We simply did it because it needed doing. Because we believed we were partners with the council. Because we believed that partners help each other without keeping score. The leaked presentation spread across the galaxy within hours. Species that had celebrated humanity's departure went very quiet. Species that had been neutral suddenly seemed very interested in establishing diplomatic relations with Earth. The Vrelian Empire, predictably, tried to seize the narrative. Humanity created these threats. They manufactured crises to make themselves seem necessary. Taeyoung Jun, Earth's Director of Colonial Affairs, responded with a simple data dump. 50,000 years of galactic history, archaeological evidence, geological records, astronomical data, all of it predating human contact, all of it showing that these threats had existed long before humanity ever left their solar system. "We did not create your problems," Taeyoung said in a public statement. "We inherited them when we joined your council. We fixed them because we are fixers. Because when humans see something broken, we repair it. When we see someone hurting, we help. Not for profit. Not for glory, because that is what decent people do." He paused, then added, "But decent people also have limits. You can only be used so many times before you learn the lesson. We learned, we left. Now you face your own problems. Problems that were always there. We just made you comfortable enough to forget about them." More disasters cascaded through council space. Pirates had formed 3 major kingdoms now, controlling nearly half of all trade routes. The plague had spread to 17 different species. The gate network was failing completely, with ships lost every day. The Devourers had consumed 12 more civilizations. The dimensional rift had quadrupled in size. And humanity did nothing. Ships from desperate species appeared at the Sol system boundary every day, begging for help, offering anything, everything. Their requests were politely declined. Not with anger, Not with gloating, just simple refusal. Humanity is no longer available for consultation. Please seek assistance elsewhere. Sunho. Oh, a human philosopher living on a neutral station, broadcast a message that became famous across the galaxy. He was drunk when he recorded it, which somehow made it more impactful. You called us paranoid, he said, his words slightly slurred. Paranoid for building weapons. Paranoid for maintaining fleets. Paranoid for keeping secrets. Paranoid for always preparing for worst-case scenarios. You mocked us, called us warlike, aggressive, dangerous. Said we saw threats that did not exist. He laughed bitterly. Turns out we were not paranoid enough. We trusted you. We believed in partnership. 6 months had passed since humanity departed the Galactic Council. The galaxy continued spinning. Trade continued flowing. Wars continued brewing. Life went on as it always had. Except something was different. Something was missing. It took the galaxy those 6 months to notice what the Kelvin Commercial Consortium noticed first. Their quarterly reports showed a 37% drop in revenue. Their financial analysts gathered in emergency meetings, spreading tentacles across data screens trying to understand what went wrong. A junior analyst named Kellix finally found the answer. The humans, Kellix said quietly. They bought 37% of our exports. They are gone now. The consortium directors dismissed this. Then we sell to others. The market adapts, but the market did not adapt. Human trade had been unique. They bought things other species considered worthless. Art from species known for being untalented. Food that other species found disgusting. Technology that others deemed obsolete. They had created markets where none existed before. Now those markets simply collapsed. Within 3 months, the Kelvin economy entered a depression. Unemployment reached 60%. Riots broke out on their homeworld. The consortium begged the council for aid. The council, without human financial contributions, had little to give. The Threxian hive noticed next. A plague had returned to their spawning worlds. This plague came every 50 years like clockwork. For the past 200 years, it had been stopped before it could spread. Human doctors had arrived, administered vaccines, treated the sick, and departed. The Threxians had stopped thinking about the plague at all. Now it was back, and it was spreading. Threxian physicians tried to recreate the human vaccines. They failed. The formulas were too complex. The techniques too advanced. Desperate, they tried to contact the human medical services. Their messages bounced back with a simple automated response. Humanity is no longer available for consultation. This communication channel is closed. 10 million Threxians died in the first wave, 20 million in the second. The Hive Queen begged the council for help. The council sent their best doctors. None of them could stop the plague. They had relied on human medicine for so long. They had forgotten how to handle such crises themselves. The Corridor Kingdoms, a network of independent stations along the major trade routes, noticed the pirate problem. Raiders had always existed on the frontier, preying on weak ships and isolated stations. But they had been manageable, annoying but not catastrophic. Now they were catastrophic. Pirate attacks increased by 400% in the first 6 months. Entire convoys vanished. Stations went dark. Distress calls went unanswered. Station Master Korvax, who ran the largest station in the corridor, finally understood why. The human patrols, he told his security chief. They were always there, always watching. We thought they were showing off. Being aggressive, they were actually keeping the pirates scared. Without human warships randomly appearing in patrol zones, the pirates grew bold. They upgraded their ships, formed alliances, started taking territory. Within 8 months, the Corridor Kingdoms lost 40% of their trade routes to pirate control. The remaining kingdoms pooled their military forces and tried to fight back. They lost. Badly. Human trainers had been working with council militaries for 2 centuries, teaching tactics and strategy. Without that training, without that experience, the kingdom forces were simply unprepared for real combat. Boris Shin watched all of this from her position as an independent observer. She was human, but had chosen to remain at the council as a neutral party. Her official role was to document the post-human transition period. Her actual role was to warn them. They never listened. The Kelvin economy has collapsed, she reported to the council assembly. The Threxian plague has killed 40 million. The Corridor Kingdoms have lost half their territory to pirates, and this is only the beginning. Humanity orchestrated this somehow, the Vrelian Imperator accused. They sabotaged our economies. They released the plague. They are backing the pirates, Bora laughed. Actually laughed. You still do not understand. Humanity did not need to sabotage anything. They were holding everything together. Now they stopped. This is what the galaxy looks like without humans constantly fixing problems you never even knew existed. Ridiculous, the Prime Speaker said, though its gases swirled uncertainly. We managed fine before humans joined the Council. Did you? Bora pulled up historical records. Before humanity joined, the Kelvin had 3 major depressions per century. Humans stabilized your markets. The Threxian plague killed hundreds of millions each cycle. Humans stopped it. Pirate kingdoms controlled 40% of all trade routes. Humans pushed them back to 5%. You did not manage fine. You suffered constantly. Then humans arrived and made everything better, so gradually you forgot what normal actually looked like. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Some species that had been celebrating human departure were notably quiet now. Worse problems appeared. The Nexus Gate network, which allowed faster-than-light travel between sectors, started showing errors. Small ones at first. Ships arriving hours late. Cargo manifest corrupted. Navigation drift. Then ships started arriving damaged, or not arriving at all. The network engineers investigated frantically. They discovered that humans had been continuously maintaining the gate network, making tiny adjustments, correcting quantum fluctuations, preventing cascade failures. They had done this so quietly, so efficiently that no one noticed. It was simply assumed the gates maintained themselves. They did not. Without human oversight, the gate network began decaying. Engineers tried to replicate the human maintenance protocols. They failed. The math was too complex, the technology too subtle. Within a year, the council estimated the entire network would be unusable. Bora gave another report. This one was harsher. Humans were not members of this council. They were the immune system. Every disease you never caught. Every accident that never happened. Every war that never started. Every market that never crashed. Humans were preventing all of it, constantly, quietly, without asking for recognition. Now they stopped. Now you are experiencing what life is actually like without them. Then they were manipulating us, someone shouted. Keeping us dependent. No, Bora said coldly. They were doing their jobs. They were being good partners. They helped because that is what partners do. You repaid them by voting to take their homes. Now they help only themselves. The Vrelian Imperator tried to maintain control. The council will adapt. We will hire new security, train new doctors, build new systems. We do not need the arrogant humans, but adapting took time, and the galaxy was not waiting. Strange signals appeared on long-range scanners, ships that did not match any known configuration. Ancient automated defenses that had been dormant for millennia suddenly activated. Species that had been quiet for centuries began expanding aggressively. A council military analyst named Borix discovered why. She had been studying human patrol patterns, trying to understand their strategy. What she found terrified her. Humans had not been patrolling randomly. Every route had been carefully calculated. Every position deliberately chosen. They had been creating a sensor web across the galaxy, watching for specific threats. Not threats to council space specifically. Threats from outside, from the dark spaces between stars, from ancient places better left forgotten. They were standing guard, Borix reported to her superiors. For 200 years, humans were standing watch over the entire galaxy. Now they left their posts. Whatever they were watching for will notice. Her report was classified. The council did not want panic. But panic was already spreading. Colonies on the frontier reported strange sightings. Ships disappearing, automated distress buoys activating and then going silent. Something was moving in the dark spaces. Bora gave her final warning to the council. You asked what humans were protecting you from. You are about to find out, and when you do, when you finally understand what we held back, you will beg us to return. Humans would not abandon the galaxy to destruction, the Prime Speaker said, though it sounded more like hope than certainty. They are not that cruel. Bora smiled sadly. You are right. Humans are not cruel, but they are tired. Tired of being used, tired of being disrespected, tired of protecting people who hate them. So they went home. They will protect their own. The rest of you, you voted to stand alone. Now you get your wish. She submitted her resignation that day. The council tried to make her stay, offering her anything she wanted. She refused. "I am going home," she told them, "to Earth, where people appreciate what they have, where partnerships mean something, where loyalty runs both ways. You should all hope that humanity is more forgiving than you deserve." Her shuttle departed the next day. Behind her, the Galactic Council faced its future. A future without humanity's protection, without their medicine, without their technology, without their quiet, constant, unappreciated work. The Council had voted for independence. Now they would learn what independence actually cost. In the Sol system, Earth's defense networks tracked every ship that approached. Automated systems challenged any vessel that came within 10 light years. Admiral Hana Kim commanded the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wide enough to hold 10,000 beings. Minho Park stood at the center podium, his dark suit a sharp contrast against the flowing robes and exotic armor of the alien delegates surrounding him. Above him, the holographic displays showed Earth's blue surface rotating slowly. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 848 different species watched him with varying degrees of interest. Contempt or indifference, Minho had been Earth's ambassador for 12 years. He had negotiated treaties, prevented wars, and built bridges between species that had hated each other for millennia. Today he would burn all those bridges down. Members of the Galactic Council, his voice echoed through the translation systems, converted instantly into 847 different languages. Humanity officially withdraws its membership, effective immediately. The chamber erupted, not in shock or concern, but in laughter. The Vrelian Imperator, a massive creature with 6 arms and scales that gleamed like polished steel, bellowed loudest of all. His translator rendered his amusement into perfect English. Finally, the arrogant apes show their true nature, running away like cowards because they cannot accept proper justice. Minho stood perfectly still. He had expected this reaction. Behind him, the other human delegates remained equally calm. Hana Kim, the admiral of humanity's defense fleet, sat with her hands folded. Her face showed nothing. Doyen Choi, who ran Earth's intelligence services, made notes on his tablet as if this were any other boring meeting. Jisoo Lee, the chief weapons researcher, actually smiled. The council's prime speaker, a gaseous being contained in a crystalline suit, raised several appendages for silence. The laughter died slowly. "Ambassador Park, this is quite dramatic. But let us be honest. This withdrawal is about the colonial reparations vote, is it not? Humanity simply cannot accept that the Council has ruled against it." Minho nodded slowly. "You are partially correct, Prime Speaker. 3 months ago, the Vrelian Empire accused humanity of trade violations we did not commit. They provided no evidence. They called no witnesses. Yet the Council voted 847 to 1 that Earth must surrender 12 of our outer colonies as reparations. Colonies where 15 million humans live, where children were born, where families have built lives for 3 generations. The vote was fair," the Vrelian Imperator growled. "All members had their say." "Yes, they did," Minho agreed. His voice remained calm, almost pleasant. "And that vote taught humanity a valuable lesson. For 200 years we have served this council. We believed we were partners, equals, we were wrong." He pressed a button on his podium. The holographic display changed. Numbers began scrolling across the screens. Dates, locations, incident reports. In the past 2 centuries, humanity has stopped 167 wars before they started. We have provided disaster relief to 412 worlds. Our medical teams have cured 9 pandemics. Our engineering corps has repaired 46 critical infrastructure failures across the galaxy. Our defense fleets have protected Council space from external threats 6,238 times. The chamber grew quieter. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. "We did all of this while contributing the highest per capita membership fees. We did this while providing free technology transfers. We did this while accepting insults about our appearance, our culture, and our supposed primitive nature." Minho's voice hardened slightly. "And when we asked for basic fairness, for actual evidence before judgment, 847 of you voted to take our homes." The Vrelian Imperator slammed one of his fists on his desk. "This is manipulation. Emotional blackmail. You cannot hold your voluntary service over our heads." "You are absolutely right," Minho said, and his smile was cold. "We cannot hold it over your heads. So we will simply stop. Empty threats, the Imperator scoffed. You need the Council more than we need you. Do we? Admiral Hana Kim stood up now, her uniform crisp and decorated with commendations from a dozen different species. Humanity has started the complete withdrawal process. Every human citizen in Council space is being evacuated. Every embassy is being closed. Every aid station is being dismantled. Every patrol ship is being recalled. Doyen Choi spoke next, his voice quiet but clear. Every intelligence sharing agreement is terminated. Every joint research project is being shut down. Every training program for Council military forces ends today. Every human consultant, advisor, engineer, doctor, and teacher will be gone within 6 months. Jisoo Lee added, all technology licenses granted to Council members are revoked. All technical support for human-designed systems ends now. All weapons systems we maintain for Council defense will be deactivated or removed. The chamber was silent now. The Prime Speaker's gases swirled in an agitated pattern. This is an overreaction. Perhaps we can discuss a compromise. There is nothing to discuss, Minho said flatly. The vote was fair, as the Imperator said. The Council has spoken. Humanity simply accepts the lesson you have taught us. We were never truly members. We were servants. Tools to be used. How the tool chooses to leave the workshop. You cannot survive without the Council's protection, someone shouted from the upper galleries. Minho laughed then, and it was not a pleasant sound. Protection from whom? Every external threat in the past 200 years was stopped by human fleets. Every invasion was repelled by human soldiers. Every hostile species was negotiated with by human diplomats. We do not need your protection. We were your protection. He gathered his papers, a deliberately archaic gesture that he knew would be recorded and analyzed. Humanity thanks the Council for 200 years of education. We have learned much about galactic civilization. We have learned that idealism without respect is slavery, that partnership without equality is exploitation, that being needed is not the same as being valued. Minho began walking toward the exit. The other human delegates followed. Admiral Kim paused at the doorway. A final note, she said, looking back at the assembled species. Human patrol routes are being withdrawn effective immediately. Human early warning systems are being deactivated. Human defensive installations are being abandoned or destroyed. Whatever was coming that we were holding back. It is your problem now. What is that supposed to mean? The Prime Speaker demanded. Hana Kim smiled. It did not reach her eyes. I suppose you will find out. Good luck. The humans left the chamber. Behind them, arguments erupted. Some species seemed concerned. Most seemed relieved or even celebratory. The Vrelian Imperator declared it a great day for Council independence from human interference. In the shuttle back to Earth's flagship, Minho sat quietly. Doyen sat beside him. They do not understand, Doyen said softly. No, Minho agreed. They do not understand what we have been protecting them from. They do not understand how many threats we diverted before they ever knew about them. They do not understand that our restraint was a gift, not a weakness. Will they learn? Minho looked out the window at the stars. Yes, but the tuition will be very, very high. Back on Earth, the withdrawal process began in earnest. From every corner of Council space, humans packed their belongings and said their goodbyes. Some aliens they had worked with begged them to stay. A few even cried. But the orders were absolute. Humanity was coming home. In the Sol system, massive fleets gathered. Defense stations that had been spread across the galaxy were being relocated to protect Earth and its colonies. Weapons that had been quietly held in reserve were being brought online. Research projects that had been deliberately slowed were given unlimited budgets. Humanity was done being gentle. Done being patient. Done being the galaxy's unpaid guardian. Now they would show the universe what humans were truly capable of when they stopped holding back.